Okay, thank you. We're so happy to have you here. And I have to start with this question because I'm not a very creative type. And so I have to ask you, somebody who is so creative, how did you develop this passion for this field and for your creativity?
Right. After I just finished my 10th, that's a matriculate, I had been to Mumbai. At that time, this is way back in 84. And I remember at that time, interior design was just developing as a profession because it was majorly architecture. One of my elder sisters, my cousin, she was an interior designer, a professional interior designer. And she started taking me on site and I started seeing what type of drawing she was doing, working. And I realized that whatever she was putting down on paper, that was actually getting created on at site. And I really found it wondrous. I said, "This is something great." You know, you sit, understand the profile of a person, you understand his lifestyle, and then you start creating spaces or designing spaces which will revolve around him as a person. And this transit really made me get attracted towards interior designing as a field. So after 10th, I did my 12th. I completed my HSC. I did my graduation also. I've done my BSc. I've graduated in science. But then the moment I finished my graduation, I told my parents that I want to pursue design. That's the reason why I took up interior design rather than architecture, because architecture was 5 years. So I did a course in interior designing for 2 years. And that says it all. I mean, this is how it came. So the creative element which I saw, whatever you have in your mind, you put it down on paper and it starts getting created on site. This transit was really fascinating for me.
Wow. May I, Vicky?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So being in this field, what is it that really gives you the drive to keep on and on persistently and getting delight out of it?
Right. See, I've been practicing individually for more than maybe 25 to 27 years. I've done an internship for around 10 years where, I was working on projects right from very small cabins to large malls and, furniture showrooms. So I felt in all this process, I was connecting with so many different people, interacting with them, understanding their psychologies, understanding what they like, what they don't like, and trying to give my best. So I always believe that isn't it a very nice aspect that you're creating lifestyles or you're creating entirely something new which will comfort a person not only to grow physically but to grow psychologically also. Okay, and this element I suppose is a driving factor in me. So when a new space comes, the first thing it comes into my mind is what are the type of people I'm going to design this for, what would be their likings, dislikings, how do I make them comfortable. And this really fascinates me every time. So a new project, a new challenge is there, and I've seen that no single person matches to another. I'll never see two people exactly identical to each other. They'll be entirely different from each other. So I suppose that was the element which fascinated me.
Did you have to have a little psychology background for that?
Actually, I have not studied psychology, but yes, through experience or whenever I was stuck up somewhere, I talk to fortunately, I'm blessed with very good teachers and my connect with the teachers is also very good. Or then, as Anita ji said, I'm connected to the academics. So over there, I try to understand how human psychology works. I have my own understanding towards it, or I have developed my own understanding. And by God's grace, my understanding has worked around 99%. So,
Oh dear.
Uh-oh. Is he frozen or are we frozen?
Connectivity blip.
Okay. Hopefully he'll come back.
Yes.
Say hello. I want to say hello to Vidya and some other people have come. Let me remind oh, he's back.
Yes.
Go ahead.
yes.
Sanjeev, go ahead. Yes, go ahead and continue.
Yes. No, that is it. So I think so over time, when I've interacted with so many different people, and in this profession, you don't only interact with a client, you're going to interact with a vendor, you'll be interacting with laborers, some skilled laborers, some unskilled ones. And so the combination of all these things has, enhanced my aspect about understanding human psychology. This is what I feel.
When you were working on your college degree, did you know what you wanted to do afterwards, or did that develop while you were in college?
Yeah, I had, yes, when I joined, I had just framed out or figured out a certain aspect of what I would like to do in my future. Like it was something like a milestone which I had set. But then I started realizing that it was demanding more amount of hard work, efforts, which obviously I put into. But then initially I had planned to do an internship. The entire process of internship was so interesting, and I was working on so many different projects with a lot of responsibilities put on me. I extended it to 10 years, and then I started my own studio. So I suppose that 10 years of my internship paid off very handsomely because my studio was, you know, it's kicked off very nicely right in the beginning, right from the beginning itself.
Wow.
Is that
And you
unusual to have a 10-year internship?
It's not usual. I've generally seen now, though the generation now is very desperate. They don't even work as an intern for not more than 6 months, and they jump into their own profession. But then I thought my internship for 10 years was a good one because it enhanced my practical knowledge. I was good at academics, but my practical knowledge developed 1,000 times more than maybe any other person who must have done an internship only for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that's key. Go ahead, Anita.
So you said that you have been liaising with several stakeholders, not just the person who wants the place done up, but also
Yes.
the laborers, the skilled, unskilled people. So having
Yes.
to deal with them, how does it, how do you manage the balance?
Sometimes it's very difficult because, again, as I said, your client could be from any different startup. Okay. But then laborers also, you need to understand again their psychologies. You need to understand that, okay, in all this, experience did matter. I did my own mistakes. I learned. I had a small losses because of that also. But I learned out of it, and I started understanding that if you want to communicate, if it's going to be a laborer, you need to step down to his level and talk to him. Okay. At the same time, if I'm talking with if I'm doing a commercial project and I'm doing an maybe a commercial project of a corporate office or something, there entirely my connectivity with the people over there will be very formal. So I think so over time, through my mistakes, through some guidance, I attended some good sessions also where public speaking was taught to me. And this is how it developed. And I think so I've got a good rapport today with whomever I speak to.
Wow.
Yeah, well then let's go ahead and talk about language because it sounds to me like you're speaking of something that often I teach when I'm teaching English, and that we call it code switching. But you
Right.
mentioned speaking to people differently depending on who they are.
Absolutely.
So talk
Right.
to us a little bit about that aspect of language and its importance
Right.
and
Right.
different
Even in
people.
academics, in academics, I come from a convent-based school. So in school, it was compulsory English. Okay. And only when I have
Mhm.
some regional language lecture, I'm supposed to communicate or converse in that language. Otherwise, strictly, we were speaking English. But then when I started coming to college or when I did my graduation, I realized that using pure one language was very difficult for the person whom you're communicating with. Because in my
Mm.
college, I had some of my friends coming from a different regional language medium they have learned. So I started using 2, 3 languages at the same time. But then I realized that won't happen when I start coming into my profession because at specific levels I need to communicate in English just because it's supposed to be the universal language, or I consider that's a language which is very easy to communicate, and many a times some terminology in interior designing are compulsory in English and we don't have any words for them maybe in some regional languages. But then at the same time, when it comes to laborers, now in Maharashtra we have got laborers from all over India. So it's not necessary he'll be a local Maharashtrian. He could be somebody from Bihar, from UP, someone from the south. So I try to understand some languages and I started talking with them. Again, I knew Hindi very well, so I could communicate with them in Hindi. So I thought that developing your skills in language will only enhance your communication. Okay. A typical Maharashtrian laborer will be comfortable if I'm speaking with him in Marathi rather than speaking with him in English, and so on. So I think so knowing a few languages which will help you in whatever location you're staying will always help you. And the best thing is that you should be good at English.